They learned the word Deathworld long before they learned the word human. In the early days of interstellar contact, Galaxy classified planets the way a butcher judged meat: safe, manageable, hostile, and then there were the rare ones marked in black, stamped with a warning symbol so old no one remembered. Who first drew it? Deathworld. Worlds where life did not gently grow, but fought every second to exist. Worlds with crushing gravity, violent weather, endless predators, and ecosystems that punished weakness without apology. Earth was one of them. From the outside, it looked unremarkable. Blue water. White clouds, a thin skin of air clinging to a heavy stone core.
Ow!
But scanners told a different story. Gravity higher than galactic norm. Tectonic plates in constant motion. A biosphere built on teeth, venom, infection, and hunger. A planet where the dominant species had evolved, not by avoiding danger, but by enduring it. Most civilizations never left their cradle worlds until technology wrapped them in safety, controlled climates, predictable food, cities that kept nature at a distance. Humanity had never had that luxury. Their world froze and burned them, drowned them, starved them, crushed them beneath oceans and mountains. Predators hunted them from land, sea, and air. Even the smallest wounds could kill. Still, they spread. Still, they survived. The galaxy did not understand that kind of survival. The first alien observers watched humanity from far orbit, unseen and cautious. Their probes recorded images of humans climbing sheer rock faces with bare hands, crossing frozen wastelands where exposed skin died in minutes, diving into oceans darker than space itself. They saw humans bleed, break bones, lose limbs, and continue forward anyway. They cataloged the behavior as aberrant, then alarming. When humans finally reached the stars, they did not arrive as conquerors. They arrived as explorers, traders, and migrants, their ships rough-edged compared to the polished vessels of older species. Their technology worked, but it showed scars, redundancies layered on redundancies. Systems built to fail and still function. Design shaped by the assumption that something would go wrong, because on a death world something always did. The frontier station of Keth Prime was the first place many species encountered humans face-to-face. It orbited a calm yellow star, far from any major conflict zone. Gravity was light. The air carefully balanced, the corridors smooth and bright. For most beings, it was a place of rest. For humans, it felt wrong. They moved with a quiet alertness that unsettled the station's residents. They noticed shadows. They tested handrails. They leaned into turns as if expecting the floor to shift. Their eyes tracked movement without conscious thought. Even at rest, their bodies looked prepared to react. The aliens called it predator posture, though humans themselves would have laughed at the idea. On Earth, they were rarely the strongest thing in the room. They survived by awareness, by endurance, by cooperation. Fear was not something they avoided. It was something they listened to. One of the station's senior xenologists spent weeks observing a small group of human engineers assigned to infrastructure maintenance. They worked longer shifts than required, slept in short bursts, and shared food without ceremony. When asked why they did not complain about the workload, one of them shrugged. "This is easy," the human said. "Nothing here is trying to kill us." The xenologist flagged the comment as dark humor. Later, after reviewing Earth's environmental data, the joke no longer seemed funny. Humans carried their death world with them, not in soil or microbes, but in muscle memory and instinct. Their bones were dense, their hearts strong, their immune systems aggressive to the point of self-damage. Their pain tolerance exceeded most species' emergency thresholds. Where others collapsed under stress, humans adapted. That adaptability frightened the galaxy more than any weapon. It became clear during the first joint expedition to Varkashanan, a frontier planet classified as marginally habitable. The terrain was unstable, the atmosphere thin, native life forms aggressive but manageable by galactic standards. A mixed species team was deployed to assess long-term settlement potential. Within hours, things went wrong. A seismic shift collapsed part of the landing zone. Equipment was buried. Communications flickered. The alien members panicked as protocols failed one by one. Emergency beacons activated, but rescue would take days. The humans did not panic. They checked injuries. They redistributed supplies. They established shelter using debris and local materials. When one alien collapsed from exhaustion in the low-gravity environment, a human carried them without complaint. When predators circled at night, the humans took watch shifts, using nothing but fire and noise to keep danger at bay. One of the alien survivors later admitted something that would circulate through the Galactic Council like a poison. The humans looked calm. Not fearless. Not reckless. Calm. As if this chaos was familiar. As if they had trained for it their entire existence. When rescue arrived, it found the human members injured, exhausted, and alive. It found the alien members alive only because humans had refused to leave anyone behind. The official report credited teamwork and luck. The unofficial report whispered a different truth. Deathworlders did not survive by chance. They survived because suffering was their baseline. News of humanity spread fast after that. Some species welcomed them, eager to learn resilience from those forged under constant threat. Others closed their borders, labeling humans a destabilizing influence. A few began quiet military studies, not because humans were aggressive, but because they endured conditions that would break trained soldiers. On peaceful worlds, humans struggled with boredom. On dangerous ones, they thrived. A trader once asked a human why their species kept pushing into unstable regions instead of settling comfortable systems. The human took a long moment before answering. Comfort doesn't mean safe, they said. We learned that early. The galaxy liked to believe it had tamed the universe. The technology had replaced fear. The predators were problems to be engineered away. Humanity was a reminder that the universe could not be controlled, only faced. And humans faced it without flinching. The realization that changed everything came quietly, buried in data most species ignored. A comparative analysis of extinction events across known civilizations. Patterns of collapse under stress, environmental shifts, resource scarcity, war. Humanity's projected survival curve did not dip the way others did. It rose. Where disasters ended, civilizations, humans adapted. Where wars shattered empires, humans rebuilt. Where hostile environments erased species from history, humans treated them as challenges to overcome. The galaxy had assumed Deathworld species were anomalies, dangerous but limited. They were wrong. Humans were not strong because they conquered their world. They were strong because their world never stopped trying to kill them. And as the stars grew darker, as ancient threats stirred beyond known space, the galaxy began to understand the most chilling truth of all. Humanity did not fear what was coming. They had been preparing for it since the day they were born on a Deathworld. The first mistake the galaxy made was thinking Earth was cruel in obvious ways. They focused on the storms that tore cities apart, the earthquakes that swallowed coastlines, the volcanoes that darkened skies for years. They cataloged predators with teeth and venom, diseases that rewrote bodies from the inside, oceans that crushed anything that sank too deep. All of it looked dramatic, measurable, terrifying. What they missed were the quiet pressures. Earth never stopped testing humans. Not for a season, not for a generation. Food failed, ice advanced, heat returned, crops died, new ones replaced them. Every solution created a new problem. Every shelter demanded maintenance. Survival was never finished, only continued. Humans learned to live inside uncertainty. Children grew up watching adults prepare for things that might never happen. Fires, floods, famine, conflict. The lesson was simple and repeated without words. Hope for calm, plan for disaster. When things went wrong, panic wasted energy. Action saved lives. That mindset stayed with them when they left Earth. On Keth Prime, the station alarms malfunctioned during a routine power fluctuation. Lights flickered. Gravity dipped for half a second. For most residents, it was terrifying. For the humans, it barely registered. They braced without thinking. Hands found rails, knees bent. No one fell. An alien technician noticed and recorded the moment. Later reviewing the footage frame by frame, they saw it clearly. The humans reacted before the alarm sounded. Instinct. The station council requested a cultural briefing. They wanted reassurance. Humans explained weather patterns, training practices, emergency drills. They spoke calmly, almost casually, about dangers they had lived with all their lives. Listening species struggled to understand how such conditions had not destroyed them. One council member finally asked the question no one else would. Why did you not evolve away from such danger? The human delegate looked confused. We tried, they said, just never stopped. That answer unsettled the room. Alien psychologists began studying human behavior more closely. Expected aggression, territoriality, uncontrolled violence. They found something more complex. Humans argued, but they also compromised. They competed, but they cooperated under threat. They carried grief openly, then kept going. Their emotions did not weaken them. They sharpened them. On frontier worlds, human settlers were often the first to volunteer for unstable assignments. Not because they were fearless, but because danger felt familiar. Where other species froze under pressure, humans focused. Where systems failed, humans improvised. Supply convoy was lost in a debris field near the outer colonies. Navigation arrays blinded, hulls damaged. Panic spread through the escort fleet. Protocol demanded withdrawal. Human captain broke formation. Without waiting for approval, the ship moved into the field. Manual controls. Visual navigation. Thrusters firing in short bursts to avoid chain collisions. The crew worked without shouting, without hesitation. When a shard of metal tore through an auxiliary compartment, they sealed it and rerouted power in minutes. They recovered the convoy. The official reprimand was quietly erased. Stories like that multiplied. Always small, always practical, always human. Still fear grew. Some species remembered their own histories too well. They remembered what happened when adaptable predators learned to travel. They saw humanity's endurance and wondered what would happen if it ever turned fully outward. Humans noticed the distance, the subtle changes in tone. Invitations declined. Trade negotiations delayed. Security protocols tightened around human crews. They did not confront it. They adjusted. They shared more data. Open training programs. Allowed alien observers aboard their ships. Transparency was not a strategy. It was a habit. On Earth, secrets got people killed. One observer spent 3 months aboard a human exploration vessel assigned to chart a radiation-heavy sector. The alien expected constant alarms, heavy shielding, stress fractures. What they found instead was routine. Humans monitored radiation the way sailors once watched weather. They rotated exposure, logged symptoms, treated burns and nausea as expected costs, not emergencies. When asked why they accepted such risk, a crew member answered honestly. "We know where our limits are," they said. "We know how to push them without crossing." That answer appeared in multiple reports, always flagged. Limits. Most species lived far from theirs. The misunderstanding deepened during the first encounter with the void anomaly near the Perseus Drift. It disrupted sensors, to warped space, and erased unmanned probes without trace. The region was declared forbidden. Warning buoys were placed at a safe distance. A human science vessel crossed the boundary, not out of defiance, out of curiosity. When questioned, the captain explained that unknown threats were more dangerous when ignored. Better to observe, map, learn. The ship returned damaged, systems scarred by forces no one could yet explain. 3 crew members were injured, none were lost. The data they brought back changed stellar physics models overnight. The galaxy was grateful and afraid, because the humans had not waited, because they had gone where everyone else refused. Quietly, analysts began asking harder questions, not about what humans could do, but what they expected to face. Their ship designs emphasized redundancy over elegance. Their colonies prioritized food security over comfort. Their military doctrines, though rarely displayed, focused on defense against overwhelming odds. It was as if they assumed disaster was inevitable. On Earth, it had been. A young alien diplomat once asked a human historian what the worst moment in their species' past had been. The historian paused, then smiled sadly. Which one? They spoke of extinctions narrowly avoided, of wars that nearly erased them, of plagues that reshaped societies. None of it was told with pride. It was told with honesty. "We are still here," the historian said. "That is not a miracle. That is work." As more fragments came together, a pattern emerged that unsettled even humanity's allies. Humans did not see survival as a phase. They saw it as a constant state. Peace was a condition to be protected, not assumed. When sensors detected strange movements beyond the mapped edge of space, most species dismissed it as noise. Data anomalies, instrument error, Humans did not. They cross-checked, compared records, quietly increased patrols near vulnerable systems. They did not raise alarms. Panic helped nothing. An engineer on a listening post noticed a subtle shift in human communication traffic. More drills. It's more logistics movement. Nothing dramatic, just preparation. When asked, a human officer offered a simple explanation. Something feels off, they said. Feeling was not evidence. The galaxy ignored it. But humans had trusted that feeling before. On Earth, ignoring it meant death. The alien observers began to realize something too late. Humanity's greatest strength was not their bodies, or their technology, or even their adaptability. It was their memory. Every scar, every failure, every near extinction lived inside their culture, passed down through stories, practices, instincts. They remembered what the universe was like when it did not care if you lived. The stars were beautiful, vast, cold. Humans had grown up under an uncaring sky, and now, as signals whispered from the dark beyond known space, as patterns emerged that no model could explain, one truth became impossible to deny. Whatever was coming had faced gentle worlds before. It had never faced a species raised by a death world that taught them, from their first breath, to survive without permission. The first system to fall was not a fortress, and that was how the galaxy almost missed the warning. It was a quiet trade hub on the outer lanes, a place built for rest stops and cargo transfers. Its orbital platforms were thin-skinned, its habitats bright and comfortable, its defenses more symbolic than real. Ships came and went. Families lived there because nothing ever happened that far from the centers of power. When the station went silent, the first response was confusion, then embarrassment. Communications failures were common on the frontier. A relay could burn out. A solar flare could wash out transmissions. Someone would go fix it and file a report. The rescue cutter that arrived found the docking lights still on and the airlock sealed from the inside. No distress calls, no debris, no battle scars. Just a station hanging in the dark like it had simply decided to stop speaking. A human specialist named Leanne stood behind the alien inspection team as they drifted through the main corridor. Her suit lights caught on floating objects that should not have been floating. A cup, a set of tools, a child's toy clipped to a belt loop. Gravity was off. The alien commander, tall and thin-limbed, tried to mask unease with authority. Restore power to life support. Then we will locate survivors. Leanne moved without waiting. She did not push ahead. She did not challenge. She simply did what her hands had learned to do before her brain finished processing. She hooked her boots into a rail, stabilized her breathing, and listened to the station itself. The soft creak of stressed metal, the distant whine of a failing capacitor, the faint hiss of an atmosphere leak. It reminded her of an old habitat dome on Mars, back when the colony still smelled like raw plastic and stubborn hope. Her comm clicked. There's a breach on the port ring. Small, slow leak. They sealed sections but never got gravity back. The alien engineer paused. How can you know that? Leanne did not answer right away. She checked a panel by touch, felt the vibration, the heat, 'cause it sounds like it. The engineer looked unsettled, as if she had confessed to hearing voices. They found no bodies. They found no blood. Found evidence of a rush, a hurried evacuation. Food trays abandoned. Beds left unmade. A medical bay with drawers open and supplies missing. One wall in the central hall held a series of claw marks in the composite paneling, shallow and scattered, as if something had been dragged across it while it fought to hold on. The alien commander stared at the marks too long. Leanne tried not to, but her eyes kept returning to them. She pictured panic in low gravity. People bouncing off walls, hands slipping. She pictured something invisible in the corridor, not a predator from a biosphere, but something colder. Something that did not belong in a catalog. The galaxy wanted to call it piracy. That was the safe story. Pirates took valuables, kidnapped civilians, vanished. It fit old fears. It had solutions. The cargo bays were intact, the station's credit stores untouched. The escape pods were gone, yes, but they had launched in a scattered pattern, not the disciplined release of an organized evacuation, more like a stampede. The report reached the Galactic Council anyway, wrapped in careful language, stripped of speculation. Most leaders dismissed it. One frontier station going silent was not a crisis. Humans did not dismiss it. In the days after, human patrols increased along the outer lanes, not publicly, quietly, a few extra ships in the dark, a few more sensors pointed toward empty space. The galaxy saw it as paranoia. Humans saw it as a pattern forming. On Keth Prime, a civilian named Sava watched from a cafe window as a human freighter crew passed through the main concourse. She had lived on the station since she was young. She knew the rhythm of travelers, the posture of merchants, the relaxed gait of those who trusted the walls around them.
Oh.
Humans never walked like that. They moved as if each corridor could become a trap, not afraid but aware. A human child held an adult's hand, and the adult's free hand brushed every support rail they passed, not out of nervousness, but out of habit. Sava found herself studying them with a mix of curiosity and discomfort. Her world had been gentle. The worst thing that had ever happened to her was a power outage that lasted 3 hours. She had watched the news feed about the silent station. Everyone had, even if the council tried to bury it under trade updates and ceremonial speeches. The image of the empty corridor stayed with her, not because it was violent, but because it was wrong. She glanced at the humans again. One of them, a woman with short hair and a tired face, noticed her stare. The woman did not glare. She simply nodded once, polite, and kept moving. Sava wondered what it would feel like to live inside that kind of readiness every day of your life. In the council chambers, Commander Hresh of the Valeri Defense Union studied the same report with growing irritation. Hresh had spent decades building fleets designed for deterrence, not war. The Valeri had not fought a major conflict in centuries. Their strength came from alliances, from reputation, from the sheer cost it would impose on anyone who attacked them. Now the frontier was whispering about unknown threats, and humans were acting like it was not new at all. Hirsch called in an analyst. Explain human movement patterns. Why are they redeploying ships? The analyst hesitated. They claim it is routine training, sir. Hresh tapped a claw against the data slate. Humans do not do routine, not like this. The analyst lowered their voice. They are as concerned they are preparing for something, but they will not name it. Hresh's crest flattened slightly. Cold thought crept in, one that tasted like old fear. Do they know something we do not? The analyst did not answer. That silence was an answer. In the human enclave on Keth Prime, Leanne sat with a small group in a maintenance bay that smelled of metal and old oil. She was not a high-ranking officer. She was not a politician. She was simply someone who had been there, who had seen the claw marks, who could not forget the way the air had felt in the dark corridor. Across from her sat Haroon, a ship medic, and Juno, a sensor tech who had grown up in the asteroid belts. No one spoke loudly. There was no dramatic briefing, just quiet voices and shared unease. They did not take anything, Leanne said.
What?
They took people. Haroon rubbed a thumb over a scar on his wrist, an old habit. It could have been an accident. Pods launched wrong. Drifted, lost. Juno shook her head. Pods have beacons. Even if comms fail, they ping on emergency. We would have found something. Leanne looked at the overhead lights. They were too bright, too steady. Feels like a test. Like someone reached out and touched the edge of the map to see if anyone would react. Haroon exhaled slowly. You think it's a probe? Juno's eyes narrowed. From what? No one had an answer that did not sound insane. Ancient machines, unknown predators, something that lived between stars. It's the kind of stories humans told each other when children asked what was in the dark. The kind of stories the galaxy dismissed because space was supposed to be empty. But humans were not raised to trust emptiness. On Earth, emptiness was where predators waited. A week later, another incident hit, closer to settled space. A small habitat ring around a mining moon. The ring did not go silent. It screamed briefly, and then every signal cut out at once. The last broadcast was a confused voice, not trained emergency protocol, just someone speaking like they could not understand what they were seeing. I can't get the doors to open. It's like the station is holding its breath. Something outside the glass. It's not moving right. Then nothing. The council convened an emergency session. It's the chamber filled with leaders who had never faced real danger. They spoke in careful terms, already shaping the crisis into something manageable. Sabotage, terrorism, mechanical failure. Humans were invited but not trusted. Leanne was not in that chamber, but she watched the stream later. She saw the way alien officials avoided looking directly at the human representative. She saw the small flinch when the human said one word the council did not want to hear. Predator. A council member bristled. There is no evidence of biological predation in vacuum. The human representative did not argue, simply said predator is not a species, it is a behavior. That line spread across the network faster than the official minutes. On the civilian decks, Sava listened as her neighbors debated whether humans were bringing danger with them. Some said humans attracted conflict. Others said humans were the only ones who could protect them. The conversation itself was new. People had not spoken of protection in generations. They had spoken of comfort. That was changing. Commander Hresh requested joint exercises with human ships, framed as alliance strengthening. The truth was simple. He wanted to see what humans did when they were not performing for diplomats. The exercise took place in a quiet sector. No enemies. No live fire. Just maneuvering drills and sensor games. Within minutes, the human ships had repositioned in ways Hresh's fleet doctrine would have called wasteful. They scattered, then reformed, then scattered again. Always keeping lines of retreat open, always protecting the weakest vessel without being told. Their pilots flew like people who had been chased before. It's not in war, but in storms, in collapsing environments, in disasters that did not care about formation. Hresh watched in growing discomfort. The humans were not stronger than his fleet in raw power. They were simply harder to trap. When a simulated sensor blackout hit the exercise field, alien ships slowed, waiting for guidance. Human ships did the opposite. They moved faster, not recklessly, but decisively, switching to manual navigation. Linking laser comes, forming a protective shell around civilian craft. It looked like instinct. It looked like training ingrained so deep it had become reflex. After the exercise, Hresh requested a private conversation with the human commander. The human arrived alone, unarmed, calm. Hresh chose his words carefully. Your people behave as if you expect a threat to emerge from nowhere. The human commander met his gaze without challenge. That's because it can. Hresh's crest rose. From where? The human's voice softened. From a storm. From a system failure. From a hungry thing you did not see. From your own mistakes. On Earth, we did not survive by predicting the exact threat. We survived by assuming something would go wrong and being ready anyway. Hresh felt something shift inside him. It was not anger. It was a sinking recognition. His people had built a civilization that assumed the universe would behave. Humans had built one that assumed it would not. The next report arrived 3 days later. Deep space sensor array, one that had been silent for years, suddenly returned a burst of data before shutting down permanently. The data showed a shadow moving against the background of stars, large enough to be a ship but without heat signature, without clear structure. It moved like it was folding through space instead of crossing it. The analysts called it impossible. Humans did not. They called it familiar in the way a nightmare was familiar. Not because they had seen that exact shape, but because they recognized the feeling it left behind. The sense of being watched. The sense of a predator testing the fence. And across the stations and worlds that had once felt safe, a new kind of fear began to spread. Not the fear of invasion or war, but the fear of the unknown pressing its face against the window. The chilling part was not that humans were afraid too. The chilling part was that humans were already acting like they had been waiting for this moment their whole lives. The first true confrontation did not happen with fleets or speeches. It happened in silence, far from the council chambers and trade lanes, where the stars thinned and space felt unfinished. Human listening posts picked it up before anyone else. Not a signal, not exactly, a pressure, a distortion that made instruments hesitate, clocks drift, and trained crews feel watched even when sensors showed nothing. The same feeling Leanne had felt on the empty station, now magnified. This time humanity did not act alone. They warned everyone. The message was simple and unembellished. Unknown entities were moving through interstellar space using methods that ignored known physics. They targeted populated structures but avoided direct confrontation. They tested defenses, reactions, evacuation patterns, predators learning their prey. Some species still doubted. Others remembered the silent stations and the screaming habitat ring and chose to listen. When the first confirmed encounter happened, it was not an attack. It was a demonstration. A research platform on the edge of human space reported visual contact. The entity appeared as a warped region of darkness, starfield bending around it like water around stone. No weapons fired, no signals sent. The platform's systems failed one by one, as if gently turned off. The crew would have died if humans had not already planned for it. Emergency protocols designed for total system loss kicked in. Manual doors, chemical lights, pressure suits stored in every corridor. Training drilled into muscle memory since Earth's earliest days, they escaped. Not all of them, but enough. That loss hit humanity hard, and the galaxy felt it. Humans mourned openly. Names were spoken, faces shared. They did not hide the cost of survival. They also did not hesitate. Human ships began moving into positions no one else wanted, between core worlds in the dark, along evacuation corridors, around civilian populations. They did not demand authority, they offered protection. Alien commanders watched human fleets rearrange themselves in ways that defied elegant doctrine. No rigid formations, no single point of failure, layers of fallback positions, escape routes built into every maneuver. When asked why, a human officer answered plainly, "Because if we are wrong, nothing happens. If we are right, this saves lives." The entities struck next at a mixed-species colony world, one built on comfort and stability. Climate-controlled cities, light gravity, minimal defenses. It should have been easy prey. It was not. Humans had insisted on emergency drills months earlier. Most residents had complained. Some had laughed. But when the sky dimmed and systems failed, people moved. Shelters sealed. Evacuation routes activated. Human crews guided alien civilians with firm voices and steady hands. The entity manifested above the primary city, its presence bending light, swallowing signals. It tried to isolate the planet, to cut it off like the stations before. This time, it met resistance. Human ships did not fire blindly. It learned from observation. The entities reacted to concentration, to predictability. So humans did the opposite. They scattered.
Ow.
They flooded space with noise, decoys, erratic movement. They forced the entity to choose, to focus. Predators hated uncertainty. Leanne was aboard a small human corvette when the first real exchange happened. The ship shuddered as something brushed its hull. Not metal, not energy, but a pressure that made her teeth ache. Alarms flared. Gravity fluctuated. She braced automatically, fingers locking into the rail. Around her, the crew did the same. No screaming, no panic, just work. The weapons officer hesitated. "We don't know if this will hurt it." The captain did not raise his voice. "Fire anyway. Not to kill." To mark, they launched a pattern of kinetic probes laced with sensor tags. Not weapons meant to destroy, but to cling, to observe. One probe vanished. Another curved off into nothing. A third struck something solid enough to resist. For a fraction of a second, the entity reacted. It recoiled. That was enough. Data streamed in. The entity was not a ghost. It had mass, structure, vulnerabilities. It was not invincible. Across the system, human ships repeated the tactic. Not perfectly. It's not without loss. But each contact added information. Humans shared everything in real time, not just with their own fleets, but with the entire coalition. Alien scientists worked alongside human engineers, translating raw survival knowledge into models and countermeasures. Alien commanders adapted their doctrines, learning from human chaos. Fear shifted, became focus. The entities did not retreat. Predators rarely did once challenged. They escalated, pushing deeper, striking harder, trying to overwhelm through shock and confusion. They underestimated one thing. Humans did not break when overwhelmed. On Earth, floods came faster than people could run. Fires moved quicker than fear. Quakes struck without warning. Survival was not about stopping disaster. It was about enduring it long enough to adapt. Human ships took damage and kept fighting. Crews worked through exhaustion, injury, grief. When one ship went down, another moved to cover the gap. When alien vessels faltered, human pilots adjusted instinctively, shielding them without orders. Commander Hresh watched the battle unfold from a secure command node, his hands trembling despite himself. His fleet had been powerful on paper, and he saw what power looked like when refined by necessity. The humans were not fearless. They were practiced. At the height of the conflict, the largest entity yet emerged near the colony world, dwarfing anything seen before. Space warped violently around it. Systems across the planet flickered. Sava watched from a shelter viewport, her world shaking, lights dimming. She felt small and helpless, the way she never had before in her sheltered life. A human medic knelt beside her, steadying her breathing, eyes never leaving the datapad in their hand. "We've got this," the medic said. Not as a promise, it's a statement of intent. The final plan was not elegant, it was not clean. It was human. They used the environment. Human ships lured the entity toward a region of unstable space near a collapsed star remnant, a place avoided by sane navigators. Gravity there was violent, unpredictable. The entity followed, drawn by movement, by resistance. Alien commanders protested. The risk was enormous. Human captains accepted it without debate. Inside that storm of broken physics, the entity struggled. Its movement patterns faltered. Its ability to isolate targets weakened. That was when the coalition struck together. Not with overwhelming force, but with relentless pressure. Probes, kinetic strikes, energy bursts timed to the entity's reactions. No single blow decisive, but each one wearing it down. Predators evolved to hunt easy prey. This was not easy. The entity fractured, not exploding, but unraveling, its structure unable to maintain cohesion under constant strain. When it finally collapsed, space snapped back into place, like a held breath released. The silence afterward was heavier than the battle. No one cheered. Humans did not celebrate survival the way other species did. They took stock. They counted losses, tended the wounded. They made lists of what went wrong. The galaxy watched in stunned quiet. The threat was not entirely gone. Others like it might exist. Humans never claimed otherwise. What they had proven was something deeper. They could face the unknown and endure. In the weeks that followed, memorials were held across dozens of worlds. Humans attended them all, standing among aliens who now looked at them differently. Not as reckless Deathworlders, not as unsettling anomalies. As guardians shaped by hardship, Commander Hesh addressed the Council with words that would be remembered for generations. "We built civilizations that assumed safety," he said. "Humans built a civilization that survived without it. That difference saved us." Leanne returned to Keth Prime months later, older in ways that had nothing to do with time. She walked the same corridors, now reinforced, better prepared. She noticed alien children practicing drills with human instructors, learning how to brace, how to move, how to stay calm. Sava saw her in the concourse, and this time did not hesitate to approach. "Thank you," Sava said simply. Leanne shook her head. "We just did what we know how to do. That was the truth of it. Humanity did not seek glory among the stars. It carried scars, memories of storms and hunger and loss that shaped every choice they made. Their strength was not born of dominance, but of endurance. They inspired fear because they understood suffering, inspired respect because they refused to let it be wasted. The galaxy would change because of them, would build stronger systems, teach resilience, prepare for the dark instead of pretending it did not exist. And humanity would keep walking forward, as they always had, shaped by a death world that never offered mercy, only lessons. They had learned them well. And now, under the vast and uncaring sky, they shared those lessons with a universe that finally understood what it meant to survive.